Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's a real pleasure to see all of you here. And if you'll please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as printed.
I second that.
We moved and second to approve the agenda as printed. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Thank you. Also, we have a moment here of public comment. Is anybody trying- Nobody has signed up, but anybody in the public that would like to make a public comment at this time is welcome to do so. Okay, I don't see anybody offering to do that. We'll move on with information items and reports. First one is administration, and we're very happy to see Mr. McLaughlin here with his middle school students. So I'll turn the program over to Casey now.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you everyone for coming. So we have, as you can see, a number of our students. So it's pretty early in the year. We are really excited to actually honor these students that are here as our September Students of the Month. And every month we have a different topic. So sometimes it's things like honesty, or things like what are some of the other topics that we have? Responsibility. We've got organization, kindness, so different things like that. This month for September we are honoring the students for academics that showed up, and that are definitely, you can tell, a dedication toward academics. So pretty excited about that. We're excited to have them actually come and join us, which I know they're going to love. They're gonna come, if you could all come up and line up here, students. Come on up.
In front of your middle school logo.
So we're definitely going to get some pictures. So wait, you got to scoot in real quick. Scoot in together.
Back row.
So what I want to say, and I'm not going to go through every one of them myself, although you will get each one of you called out. However, what I will say is that each one of these students has done an incredible job, especially the first part of the school year. Let me get out of the way, nobody wants my picture. But every one of these students have done an incredible job with really coming in and getting right to work and showing up in their classes and doing the right things. And super proud of them in the hallways. We are, I have to say, we are in my fifth year at the middle school. We're definitely off to the best start that we've ever had.
Great.
An incredibly strong group of students who are very dedicated to doing the right thing, and we're really excited to have them all. So we are going to go ahead and, if we want to take a picture, and if we want to honor them by their names. Parents, feel free to stand up and take a picture while your student.
Board's getting a picture. So,
Yeah.
question, Casey.
Yeah.
Are these 7th graders and 8th graders?
Yes. So, and I'll give you a little bit of background. So, they are each identified, so every single teacher identifies a student of the month. And so, they take all their classes, their 6 classes they have a day, and of course we're on a block schedule, so teachers typically have about 9 or 10 classes. And so what they do then is they recognize one student out of all of those classes. So, depending on what type of class you have, if you're an English class or teacher or a math teacher, you might have 120 students that you see in over 2 days. But if you are you're an elective teacher, you're probably seeing half the school in 2 days. And so it's a good honor for these students to have been recognized.
Yeah.
This recognition is for this school year? This doesn't recognize cumulative?
Now this is for
academic-
September.
This is for September.
For the month of September. And so next month, or the month of October, will be a different topic, like responsibility.
Yeah.
So.
That's terrific.
Great.
Yeah, so they have done an incredible job. And some of them didn't have any idea yet what was going on. And they were sitting there a little nervous back there. And parents were putting them through a little torture. So, yeah.
They each have to make a speech and sing a song. He told you that part, right?
You guys didn't know that. But some of them would love to do that, I'm sure. Others will hate that. So, yeah.
Kelly,
Would you like me to call everybody?
Well, I
well,
really
we
get a
better do a
picture
photo
now,
while they're all
Okay.
there.
and then the clerk will call off your name and have a certificate for you, and then file by us, and we'll get a chance to shake your
You guys like to
hand.
be in this picture?
Interrogate.
Yeah, I think we should, I want to be in this with these.
I think we'll be here because I like that on, but you guys
Slide
can stand in
All right,
front of
Fiona,
it. 'cause
So
you're
we'll
too
be on
tall.
the corners.
I don't
If
want
they
to
kind of curve
ruin the
around
picture.
this way and you guys can stand on,
Oh, yeah.
like kind of
Yeah.
over
How do you
this
want
way.
Where do you want us to
So I want the tall people kind of over this way so I can keep that in the background.
Okay.
Because the kids are short enough.
Okay, scoot in, scoot in.
So,
Slide in.
so yeah, as long as the taller people are on the sides, the adults are on the sides, we'll be all right.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Near needs to be in
Yeah.
there too. Good right there.
I just want to make sure you're telling
You get right there. Can you see the camera? Right.
I'm probably blocking your view.
Okay, I can't see Carrie back there very well.
Right here.
There we go.
Yeah, right here.
Okay, I think everybody is visible now. All right, smile. Oh, perfect. Somebody.
All right. Okay, and you guys can't leave yet. You cannot leave, right?
I don't know who's here or not,
okay.
so I'm
We'll
just
read
going to
them.
read everyone.
So, and I will tell you real quick, so parents, there were a lot of students that are not here. Actually, we have quite a few. But remember, like, every single one of our teachers got to nominate someone. So we've got a lot in cross country. We've got a lot in volleyball tonight. We had some volleyball players stayed here, which some were able to make it, which is great. Others are away. And so there's a few students that are gone, so we'll read all the names.
Does every student know which teacher nominated them?
They will. Some do.
Oh, yes,
But those
they will.
posters are, there's actually a poster that goes up in the class that
Oh,
will
nice.
have their picture on it.
Very nice.
So some already have it, and some are putting them up this week.
All right, okay.
Okay. So Antonio Mendina Lopez.
Okay, why don't you walk right here in front here.
Congratulations.
You gotta, this is like the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Betty Lynn Travers.
Thanks, nice job, Antonio.
Good job, good job.
Betty. Is it Kaylee Bailey? Callie, sorry. Good job, Callie. Good job. Cassie Higgins. Or Casey Higgins. Casey, okay. Destiny Gardner. Good job. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Desmond.
Emmett Lohman.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Emmett. Good job.
Congratulations.
Fiona McDonald.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Grace Moore.
Fiona, nice job.
Okay, well
Good job,
done, well
Grace.
done.
Haley Fisher. Hunter Garcia.
Do you know somebody out there?
He's not here. Okay. Ivy Smith. Congratulations, Ivy. And Jaden Prada.
Good job.
Good job, Jaden. Jet Longenecker. Okay. John Peranitas. Sorry, did I butcher that? Sorry. Congratulations. Larissa Lippett.
So do you know what teacher this is?
Congratulations. Thank you. Good job. Congratulations. Leonardo Stock. Megan Howard. Congratulations. Good job. Nevaeh Hines.
What was your last name?
Noah Darren.
Good job, Noah.
That wasn't the last one.
Good job, Noah. Thank you. Sarah Hogue.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Sarah. Sarah Mendo. Serenity.
Congratulations.
And Via.
Oh, last but
Good job, Via. Congratulations.
Well, what a nice group of kids.
stay for the next part, so can we dismiss that?
Absolutely.
What if they want to hear your,
Well, I am an
I
author.
think they should stay for the middle school part.
You can wait and hear us, Mr. Mayor and myself, talk about some things that are exciting that are going on in school, which we welcome you to do.
and then we'll have a break after
Yes.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to sneak out, sneak out too. So,
They're going to take you up on it. If you hadn't said it, they would have been stopped.
Take it, man.
I think it's a lot of what they've heard.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I stayed till
Yeah. You teed it up for that, though. So. Yeah.
All right, well, first of all, we want to definitely thank you, Lewis School wants to thank the board very much for just the support and the opportunity to come in front of you and present what we're doing this year. And this has been a unique year in terms of how incredibly good it has started. We've done a lot of different things, we're doing some different things, and it's just really cool to see students, who you all saw here, but we've got a whole school of students. In fact, I told Carrie today, I said, is it just bizarre, but I have had nothing to do in terms of discipline for the last 4 weeks of nothing. I don't get any, there are no kids in my office, and it has not been that way all the time. So,
Knock on wood.
yeah, we do a lot. We do a lot. So, but it has been excellent, and that goes to show you the type of students that we have, and I just want to give the parents and of course some of the things I think that we're doing differently this year, which I think can really help that. And so we'll talk about some of those things and just some of the things that are kind of going on in middle school. So, and I'm okay with questions during, or if we want to do questions at the end, either way. So a couple things. So this year we wanted to keep it really simple, and we decided to keep it very, very simple in terms of what we're going to focus on. 4 things. So the 4 things that we're focusing on at Sandpoint Middle School all year long are these 4 things. So creating a positive culture, and Carrie's going to come up in just a second and talk a lot about what we're doing this year that's new and different. Some exciting things that we're doing there. The second one is excellent teaching and learning, which is really cool to go into our classrooms and to see what's going on in those classrooms with teachers. The third one is focus on the 4 critical questions, which we do, I know, as a district, but we're very intentional about how we go about addressing those 4 questions. And then the 4th one is working towards standards-based grading in our professional learning communities, which we are doing because we have partially adopted standard-based grading this year, and next year we will have a full implementation of it for our core curriculum. So right now we have all of our electives have gone to standards-based grading, and we are also working with standards-based grading, kind of a format which the parents got an email the other day, which is
I hate to interrupt you, Casey, but for those of us that don't know, what is standard-based grading?
So that's a big topic, which I'll address quickly. So the idea between standard-based grading, or the idea of it, is that you are giving students more feedback than you necessarily would with a percentage-based grade. And so the idea would be that you are giving a student, in our case, we use a 4-point method, actually 5-point method, because if you don't have any evidence, we call it a 0. But you go 1 through 4, and a 4 is a student is performing a standard. So we take a specific standard, and you work on that standard, and if a student is performing at an extremely high level, and they are basically initiating even more into that standard, they can earn a 4. A 3 is really at grade level. A 2 would be like you're almost there, and a 1 would be you're not yet, but we need some work to do toward that. So that's a basic idea. I'll get into it a little bit more, a little bit further in this, which will be just a few minutes. But and then any questions you have, I'd love to dive into that because I definitely love that topic.
And I would just like to share out that if that's of interest to the board, we can have on a future agenda, just Andrew Murray could talk more about the standards-based grading at the elementary level if that's of interest to you.
So elementary is adopting it now.
Correct.
This year. And we decided as a staff last year that we would do, we've been talking about it for 2 years. We decided as a staff that we would take 1 more year of kind of an implementation process, which honestly has been really, really valuable for us. Because it has created a lot of collective really collective goal setting, collective
So
direction.
does this change the way you record grade? You don't use letter grades anymore?
Well, we do currently, but we will not use letter grades as of next year. Correct. So we'll look a little bit different. There's some great reasons for that. I would love at some point.
So there's more increments, right? You can grade it in tenths of a number, you know?
Well, we don't want more increments, we actually want less.
Well, we can go more in this in detail
Okay.
at some other time.
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish your
I took
presentation.
notes on that. It's a
Yeah.
good topic for another.
It's a great
Let him finish the presentation.
So I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Grenier, and she's going to chat about.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. So one of the things that we did, this wasn't totally different from last year, but we've kind of reprioritized our first week of school. And so the very first 4 days of school, so the Tuesday through Friday that we come back, we've reprioritized to really focus on the connections, relationships, and school-wide expectations for behavior, for academics, for everything, implementing the positive supports program, and then creating the social motivation to help some of our students correct behavior on their own instead of waiting for us to do it. So we've created this full, we call it our Teach 2 week, when we get back, and all students, 7th and 8th grade, go through a variety of different centers, team building opportunities. The goal is to kind of get them to connect, find teachers, so adult mentors as well as other students that they might not have met before, and to try to build those connections with common interests. And we did I just put some of the pictures in here. Some of the days focus on going through more policy and procedure in different centers inside the school building, where another day is a field day where it's more problem solving as teams and getting to know one another. And then that top little thing is all of our students did an art project, all 500 of them, and we're creating a giant mural with everybody's names that walk through our school building to kind of build that ownership and pride and being a bullpup. And so we're working really hard at that. And the first 4 days we decided to just really slow down and make sure that all of our kids understood what it meant to be a middle schooler, because we realized that the students who are 6th graders becoming 7th graders, this is their first time with a teacher not leading them down the hallway, or a teacher not, being with them every step of the way in the lunchroom. And so to really teach those purposefully and simply. And so, and it's had an amazing effect, because we haven't had to do those teach twos. They understand kind of how to do that now. And this, I wanted to bring a stack of this too. We, through all of the teach twos that we did that week, we gave a little formative assessment to all of our students just to make sure that they understood everything that we were saying for that entire week. So on the flip side of that paper is like a quiz about, do you understand this rule and why we have this rule, and if you get in trouble in class, what that looks like, and they filled that all out. And then on the back side of the paper, we asked them to write a letter directly to Mr. McLaughlin and myself, and said, this is your opportunity for us to hear your voice. How has the first week gone? What are your fears? What are your expectations? What are your goals as a student? And I was absolutely blown away, as was Casey and everybody that we showed. They took it so seriously and wrote, my goal is absolutely no absences this school year, and I was tardy last year, and I'm not going to be tardy this year. And they were writing their goals, and they were setting themselves up for, this is what I expect, and here's what you guys can do in the office to make it better for me. But it was amazing how many of the kids just appreciated what we were doing, and it was such an awesome, so I have 500 of them if anybody wants to read them. And so I took a couple pictures of some, and I saved some of my favorites, but the kids were really happy with a lot of things and gave some good suggestions, minus one of the students wanted to put a pool in the quad, but I don't know if we're going to be able to pull that off or not.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. But anyways, this was just really, really successful. It's exhausting at the end of the week, but it really got the job done for what we wanted to create. But some of our 3 goals that we wanted to increase this year, as we heard through the parent feedback, parent survey, for a need for an increased communication. So we started, well, we've always had a Facebook page. We're just making it a much bigger face now. And you might see Mr. McLaughlin and I, we have a weekly vlog that we record every week. And not only do we put it on we try to do actually a positive almost every day on our Facebook page, and then we weekly vlogs every Friday. A vlog gets posted on there of either Casey or myself or the 2 of us, and we just recap what happened that week, and then we project what we're expecting to see the following week so that people can be ready. And then our Secretary Valley also emails that out to all of the parents also, so they see it Facebook, and then they get a weekly recap email about what's going on. So that's our increased communication. We also run an Instagram page that students run. That's through my account, but the students kind of do some more student-oriented things on the Instagram account. Something we've added this year is we're leaning more towards the positive incentives too. Is what we call our incentive days, and once a month, if students meet the criteria of never getting an office referral, we have these behavior steps that we call step 3 and step 4. Step 4 is they get sent to the office, and step 3 is they get lunch detention and they're almost there. But if they meet no office referrals and a limited amount of tardies, and then I'll talk about the behavior grades next, then we sort of put on a little fun activity for them. And we did one the last day in September, and we just offered a wide variety of different interest activities, and the kids made friendship bracelets. They played basketball, they played dodgeball, there was a dance, and they all just got to be with their friends. And all of our students, besides 16 kids, were able to make that goal. And then the 16 got to have an hour with Mr. McLaughlin, understanding why they didn't get to go. So that was great. So it was benefit for everybody. And so on top of increased communication, increased incentives for the students who are doing great every single day, we've added this year behavior grades. And so these behavior grades actually got emailed out to all parents this week, and the philosophy behind that is that we're trying to front load why grades might be affected by behavior in the classroom. And so we're sending these out mid-quarter, and so parents can see on a 1 through 4 scale. So if my student is scoring a 1 in work habits, that's the area that we're hoping is going to be better communication between student and parent, between parent and teacher, to increase that and to make that better. By the time that first quarter report card comes out, they will have already had that conversation about what might be the roadblock between me and the grade that I want to have at the quarter. So it's creating a lot of really, really good dialogue, and honestly, I don't know if we've had any negative feedback so far about those. So we're just trying to make the kids a little bit more accountable and also increase communication with families, give something really meaty to be able to talk to at home. This, we just loved it, but as Mr. McLaughlin said, we have had the best start to the school year ever. It's just been so incredibly positive. And Casey got this just emailed to him randomly after the start, and like not initiated by the teacher. It wasn't initiated by a parent. She did this completely on her own, just wanting to tell us how much she's enjoyed the start to school and how much she enjoys the teachers. And what did she call it? She said,
a brain vacation.
Oh, for being on the 7th grade vacation with me. And you know, middle school is really hard for a lot of kids, and if we can get more kids feeling like it's enjoyable to be in our walls, that's kind of meeting our whole vision too. So we just wanted to put that.
Wow.
And this isn't the only one, which
Great.
is it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it is. And then so what's new at SMS? We are so excited to have Austin join our staff. So he's been there every day, so we're so excited to have him in the office with us. So we appreciate that. Something that was also new to our school, and we were honestly a little bit worried about it, as we went to the one-to-one Chromebooks. Where each student had their own device that they got to check out and they are taking home, and it's working out really well, thank you. And so we're working along just like the high school is, and the students are actually being really responsible and taking care of it. You know, we've had a couple of little issues here and there, but the kids have really grasped that ownership of needing to care for something that will be theirs. So that's been exciting. We're continuing all of our different electives, but you know, as we started that change in giving more opportunity to try out different things that the students might actually have interest in, the electives that's why we switched to go to the standards-based grading in electives this year. So in their core classes, they'll still get their ABC traditional grades. But in electives, they'll be doing a 1 through 4 based off of what they're actually getting out of that class, in an effort to just expose them to lots of different medias and lots of different interest groups, and not worry so much about a 0 is going to give me a D in cooking, where it's like, did you actually understand the concept, and can you bake a cookie at the end of the day? So that is what's new. Oh, and we added Design for Change, so Ann Dickinson, one of our health teachers, is who brought that to the middle school. So actually all of our 8th grade students are exposed to that idea of Design for Change.
So, a couple other things. So just to jump in a little bit of the academics that we're doing, and I don't know if we're approaching it a little bit differently. A lot of it's kind of the same, but a lot of it's different as well. Just a tweak to it. We really focus on the key 4 critical questions. One of the big ones, which I want to highlight here, is the what do we do if they don't learn it? It's question number 3. And we have really focused on this quite a bit. How do we know, first of all, if students learned it? We work on that, and then what do we do? So systematically, we can nail that. We can figure out what to do when a student doesn't learn it. We feel like we are really helping those students along. And data definitely shows that. One of the big things that we do is we have a 3rd period built into our day, and that's a half an hour every day, 20 minutes on Wednesdays. It's a shorter day, but it gives daily help for students. And so what happens is the student will actually get requested. So if they were in my class and they're struggling with a concept, I would just request them, they come to me for help, for additional help. And so that's during the day. So a teacher can request a student, and it's an average of 1/5, so around 100 students a day get requested. And we make sure, it is our goal to make sure that we set a yearly goal to make sure 98% of the students that are requested get to the spot where they're supposed to be. And so we are on the phone immediately to different classes. We're searching the halls, whatever. And so kids are always where they're requested, which is great. Last year we exceeded that goal. This year we're ahead of that goal too. But anyways, so we definitely give them extra help there. So if they're struggling in math, they can go back to math for an extra half hour of work just for extra help. If they're not struggling, they don't need to go to that. If they're struggling in the ELA, they'll go to that. And so teachers can request students. One of the things that we do on Wednesday, because it is a 20-minute, it's a shorter block of time, we actually have the students stay there, and we focus on what we call a lot of social peer motivation. One of the big things that we noticed last year, throughout the year, which we really struggled to find ideas, and we tried a bunch of different things, but tardies. Tardies is such a silly, such a silly thing, and yet it's very impactful to students and teachers in the teaching schedule, because they're going to jump in and they're not going to have time to actually, they're going to mess up kind of that flow of the teaching process. So last year, we had 512 tardies at the end of September. This year we were down to 160, which is a massive difference. And the way that we did that is using competitions through homeroom. So basically we set up homerooms against homerooms, and they get an incentive, and at the end of the month, if you've got the least amount of tardies in your homeroom and the least amount of behavior issues, we're giving you an ice cream party, and you get 20 minutes in the gym just having fun. And so, and for whatever reason, that 20 minutes is like super popular, and kids want that.
Yeah.
Do you take attendance every period, every day?
Yeah, and in homeroom, it seems like we take attendance 500 times because we are calling everybody to find these kids. Another thing we did, and I won't spend a lot of time on this, but this is different as well, but in terms of question number 3, we have what we call ZAP, which zeros are not permitted. And so students that have zeros, and of course, zeros in middle school are huge. They're huge because students are not typically used to having so many teachers. In the organizational process, I have an 8th grader right now, an 8th grade boy, who cannot keep track of it all. It's just, there's so much more going on with so many multiple classes to keep track of. And so what we've done is we've created an opportunity for students who are struggling and getting zeros to come in at lunchtime and get that work done. And what we tell the students is this is not a punishment. You do have to go, but the moment you turn in that work that was a 0, see it, go have fun. Go hang out with your friends, whatever it is. Today we had, we had 3 classes full, the first one, so that was 90 students. We had over 150 students in it because a lot of them didn't turn in this one assignment that they had in PE. And so they all came in, but guess what? By the end, they all got out. I mean, they were all getting it done in mass numbers. So it addresses a lot of things, but it allows for students not only to have accountability, but also to know that, hey, if I have a tough time, I can go there. We actually have students that are putting themselves in the ZAP now, that come and ask us, can I go into ZAP, please? I got this assignment. And there's always a teacher in there that can help them with the assignment, and so there are 2. And so it's been great. So that's really, really helped. One of the things I would just, and this might help a little bit of the explanation, Gary. Last year we had, I ran all the numbers, and last year we had 86% of our students who earned a grade of A, B, or C. 10% of our students earned Ds, and only 4% earned Fs at our semester at the end of the year. The issue was that didn't translate completely to ISATs. And so one of the big questions we've asked ourselves is, why? Why does that not translate directly to ISATs? If our students are passing their classes, we had homeroom last year. We didn't have, we did not have ZAP, but we had homeroom. We had to ask ourselves, okay, what's the issue? What are we doing in the classroom? What does our curriculum look like? What level are we asking the kids to perform at? And so what we found, and I went to a conference to learn more about this, but we found what's called the depth of knowledge. And kind of like standard-based grading, there are 4 different levels in depth of knowledge. And there's a reason why there's pancakes out there, it's depth. But the idea with the 4 different levels is that students, typically when they're learning something for the first time, it's like vocabulary. They are first learning just what's the definition. They don't know how to apply it, they're just learning that basic definition. That is a level 1 in the depth of knowledge. A level 2 would be the skill in the concept. So you're more concept related. Level 3, strategic thinking, so you're diving in more. And level 4, extended reasoning. The ISATs are typically tested at a level 3. Mm-hmm. What we realized is we are oftentimes in class, we are expecting the students to get to level 2. And so what we're doing is we have these false readings that we're saying, hey, these students are doing great. They're getting A's and they're getting B's. The reality is we haven't had them applying that information enough to the level that the ISATs are actually asking them to apply. So when I went to that conference, the guy related it to pancake making. He said, okay, if you're gonna make pancakes, the standard is you will make pancakes. That's the standard that you're trying to learn. So a level 1 would be, can you gather the ingredients, the correct ingredients? That would be, are you getting right? Level 1, you definitely haven't made pancakes yet, you're not there. A level 2 would be something like, can you mix the ingredients together? Okay, so you're starting to approach, like you're getting there. A level 3 would actually be making pancakes, right? The problem is we oftentimes ask our students to get to level 2, and they feel like they're doing a great job at that, but we don't take them that next level to actually fulfill the standard at a level 3. A level 4 would be
The butter and syrup.
can you or can you show someone? Can you teach another person now how to make those pancakes? Or can you carry it further? Right. So that is something we are addressing this year. So when it comes to what are we doing different, what are we changing, I would say the depth of everything that we're doing, the level of care we're giving them I think everything from the culture to the level of academics is far deeper than I think we've ever gone. And I think it's already shown to be very important and it's shown to be great. This is the last thing here, but we now have, because of all of these things that we've been doing for the last several years, and last year was definitely what I call a stormy year. We struggled in a lot of ways, but now we have 5 different leadership teams with everybody but the new staff on those leadership teams. So everybody in the school is represented in at least one leadership team by their own choice. I did not ask anyone to be a part of it. I did ask different people to lead those leadership teams. So we have different leaders in every single one of the teams. And they're doing an excellent job. And this was a great quote by a teacher who sent it to me. He sent me an email last week. He said he had just filled out a grant. He said, last night I was writing a STEM grant for $2,500 and in one box to fill in, I was happy to state we make learning irresistible, which is just such a cool thing, right, for a teacher to be able to say that. So it is, in terms of what are we doing different, I think it's a collective whole, which is good.
I just have to say one story was really cute. This kid came into school and he said, Mr. Clary, I think I'm really tired. I can only handle a depth of knowledge 1 or 2 today. Like, can you not take me to a 3? I just can't think that deeply. But it was getting them to think about like where we want them to go.
That's fun.
Insightful like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So that's it. That's all we have for you. But again, thank you. If you have any questions.
So,
Thank you. Questions? Yes, okay.
What's your goal? I mean, on your ISATs, can you?
Yeah, so we are following, and I do have a list of goals. And we're definitely following, we're trying to raise everything up. So we take the cohort, And we follow that cohort and to see, okay, where's that cohort going? And we're setting our goals at 2% more for every single cohort. So if sixth graders, and the number is not in my head, I got another thing there that I'm actually creating right now. But we go through and we set all those goals, and right now, so if the seventh graders in sixth grade in ELA were at 63% proficiency, we're going to set it at 65%. And so we're consistently looking at, how is that cohort doing and trying to carry it down.
So
And you
Gary,
analyze
We
it
did have,
Student by student, you're looking at this?
Yeah, so we actually printed off every single student's ISAT score, and every single teacher in every single class has those scores highlighted. What we talk about oftentimes, I didn't mention this, we often talk about targeting those students for extra help, bringing them into homeroom, because the students that struggled on the ISAT, we can really help them out by giving that extra half hour. Think about that, extra half an hour a week for 4 days a week, every week of the school year.
Is this something new, your daily schedule with the half an hour
And it's
every
not
day
new.
of
We did it
help?
last year too. So, I'd say it's just more refined. We've done it for a couple years now.
so Gary, each school's doing a SIP plan, continuous improvement plan, and we will capture each school's SIP plan and send it to you guys as a board. So you'll know every school's plan.
great.
So
That's great.
I'm taking up all your time here. Do you have any new curriculum this year, any new
Hey,
classes?
we're gonna just,
programs?
I'm gonna cut you off, we're gonna go ahead and move on with the meeting. If anything that he's covered that you would like to ask questions, that's fine, but we just don't wanna open it up we'll be here all night.
I love the positive direction
I do
on these
too.
programs.
Very impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're excited about it. And I do welcome, we'd love to have any of you. I know both of you came in last year, love to have
Yeah.
you come in.
Yeah.
Be back.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it'd be great if there's an opportunity where you're having a school event you want to ask us to attend.
Great.
Reach
Yeah,
out and we'll,
that'd be great.
yeah, that'd be great.
So, yeah, I'd like to make that request, and on behalf of all the boards, when you have special events, especially academic oriented,
Yeah,
could you send us notices?
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Casey. Carrie, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to our next administrative matter that we have here.
Sure.
And it has to do with school bullying information.
Yep.
And the Superintendent Albertson is going to...
And at this time, I would like Officer Spencer Smith and Officer Dave Giffen, if you could come on up here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not anymore. It's, yeah, no,
That's true.
it was. Hi there. Thanks for having us up here today. I just
Nice to
wanted
see
to
you.
assist Tom with
Yeah,
going over a presentation that very important topic anymore.
right.
Period. So.
And Spencer, I don't know, in your years as SRO, have you ever formally been here and introduced to the board?
Years ago,
Okay.
before some of these guys, sorry,
We all
Officer
know
Smith, yeah. I've been on the
Okay.
police force for about 8 years. This will be my 7th in the schools as acting school resource officer. I help teach a criminology class to the high school level. And then there's all sorts of other extracurricular activities between Bonner General Health, 7B Drug Free, different things that I've been part of to help assist the schools in getting everything that they need and deserve. I guess that's what I put it, so.
Thank
And
you.
I believe I have met everybody throughout.
Yeah.
Over the course of the.
Yes, over this last 6 years.
And then Officer Dave Giffen is new at Sandpoint Middle School. You gotta introduce yourself, just,
Dave Giffen, been with the department for 18 years, been on the police, or been in the police force for 25 years. New to the schools. Don't know anything there is to really tell you about that.
We're working on that.
We're still working
yeah,
on it, yeah.
yeah.
It's good.
And I've asked them here today to help me with this presentation, and this came up because it was actually members from the Kiwanis Club that just brought up the topic of school bullying. It was out there, and I said, absolutely, we'll present on school bullying. We'll show you the data that we have and what we send to the state, and kind of the definition and kind of the training that we give our staff. So since it came up into the community, I said, well, why wouldn't the school board also want to see this presentation? And so we'll try to make it brief tonight. We won't make it as long as we did with the Kiwanis, but really, and I'll have Spencer and Dave jump in here a little bit, but one of the things is the misconception of what bullying really is. So that's kind of where we started. And so, let's see if I can get this. Here we go. So what is bullying? It's on its fast track. What is bullying and harassment? And what's really confusing is, and I'll have the officers speak about the state definition and the state code on that from their side of law enforcement. But really, think of bullying and harassment as the same thing. I mean, they're not separate. And you can look at the definition of harassment is really more targeted towards a person who's part of a group or discriminating against, whether it be on skin color, gender, or something along that way. But really the act of being mean or doing something harmful is the same as bullying. And so sometimes that's really misconstrued. So we've got kids out on the playground. It starts at the elementary level. We've got kids, trying to jockey for social position. It's part of growing up. But at the same time, it's when someone says or does something unintentionally, they didn't really mean to do it, and it's hurtful, and they do it once, that's really rude. And this is coming from our curriculum at the elementary level of Second Step program, and Joy Jansen's here, Dr. Joy Jansen, she can speak to that. When someone says or does something intentionally hurtful, so they intended to do this and they did it once, that's what we say, it's mean. And again, when someone says or does something intentionally hurtful and they keep doing it, even when you tell them to stop or show them that you're upset, that's when you get into that definition of what bullying is. And this is, I know this is a simple definition, and this is really what's being taught to the elementary school students, but I think it kind of touches on it versus more of the clinical side, I guess you would say, of what bullying really is. Spencer, do you want to touch on the law a little bit?
Well, there's two state laws. One is bullying and harassment, and they even put it in there: student harassment, intimidation, and bullying. And then the Idaho Code also has one just for harassment. And like Mr. Robertson said, they're two different entities. For one, harassment generally just falls under telephonic harassment. It's a repetitive behavior towards a group or it's a totally different one. So when a lot of people say I'm getting harassed, or it's not. It all falls under this code for the state of Idaho is what they've and it combines all of it. It even takes some of the harassment code and puts it into the bullying code, so it encompasses more. And it covers the students a little bit better, I feel. And I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing out loud, but you can see it. It is no student, minor present on school property or school activity shall attend, intentionally commit or conspire to commit an act of harassment, intimidation, or bullying against another student. So harassment, intimidation, or bullying means any intentional gesture or any intentional written, verbal, or physical act to do threat to a student. In other words, it'll put fear in the student that they're going to have bodily harm or harm to their person or property. So once again, that goes back to not just a mean comment or a hurtful statement. It's more of a repetitive behavior. So, and I guess the bottom line to it also as well is the state of Idaho decided to turn it to an infraction. It's not a misdemeanor charge. So and I have cited it in the past, not a whole lot. We like to do restorative justice, which we cover some of that coming up here in a second. So I won't go into it, but usually if it goes past bullying and it's a full-on, that's when it gets to the physical, and then you got assault or battery. Those are going to be two different ones, and all three of them are very important and they're all handled appropriately. But the hardest thing we run into is really what is going to classify as bullying in a school, or is it just a rude comment?
Yeah. And so, and we have school consequences, and then we also bring law enforcement in at that point in time. If it's severe enough, we want law enforcement's presence there because we take this very seriously. No student should be at school feeling intimidated or having somebody else have power over them. And really, that's what we're looking at. We just, and I'll have to say to Carrie, and Casey, they've just done a wonderful job this year of creating that kindness and that atmosphere at Sandpoint Middle School, and you can sense it when you walk in there. So last year, over 3,800 students, this is what we had to report to the state, and I decided not to break it out. And we've got some work to do on our part as far as how administrators are coding it, but whether it be bullying or harassment, but sometimes it's broken down into, it's confusing because it can be a harassment that is of sexual nature, harassment that is non-sexual, and the bullying part, it gets a little confusing. So we're going to do a little training on our administrators of how do they record what actually hit on that. And then obviously there's things like breaking school rules that isn't bullying, but if it fits the definition of bullying, we're required by state to send that to the report. And our report last year is we had 29 individuals that were involved in something what we figured was the definition of bullying harassment, 35 total different incidents. Some of those were repeats.
So I don't know if you, on there, and I don't know if it shows it there, so you get bullying and harassment, but then when it does go a step further, I don't think that the physical altercations that were to take place fall into those categories, do they? I didn't look under how they get broken down.
Yeah, I think they do.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And this is to the public, what's really different today? And a lot of times people say, well, gosh, why do we hear about it in the news all the time? What is this about school bullying and what's the difference, When I was in school, we would just go behind the backstop and settle it, those type of things. No one used those type of terms, but really it's interesting that social media gives students 24/7 access to their peers. There's no break from each other, and if you think about that, you need to have a break from your friends even. And people that you may have a disagreement with. I joked at the Kiwanis group that when I grew up, we still had a party telephone line, and I had my grandmother and my great aunt on there that listened to every phone call I ever had, and they were breathing heavy at that time. So, I mean, there was checks and balances everywhere. I mean, there was absolutely, you didn't have 24 access to your friends at all.
It was
and
anonymous,
so
yeah.
that's tough for kids today. So cyberbullying is more prevalent than physical bullying, even though we do have some physical bullying that does still occur. But a lot of it is things that don't happen at school that come into school. And it's easier to be mean when you're not face to face. I mean, this is probably what you guys realize you deal with more is when parents are upset about something that happened outside of school that's brought into school, and then they're asking for your help on what can we do legally. I mean, so at one point in time, they want to come into the administrator and say, okay, what can we do? But really, there wasn't anything that happened at school and school consequences unless it moves into a violation of the school policy. But really, they ask you as law enforcement for help all the time on this. So do you want to?
Different calls today for it.
Yeah.
Whether it be Instagram or Face, the hardest thing about all of that is some of it can be deleted, whether it be Snapchat, Instagram, what have you, or the kids are going to have two different accounts, so they're going to show a parent one thing, but then tell their parent another. So-and-so said this on the Instagram. See? But that's not actually the right Instagram account. They had 2 or 3 of them. So for us to get the final picture on was it actually bullying or was it just banter back and forth, very rarely do I see one-sided bullying. I just don't. Usually at that point it crosses over into a battery or an assault, because usually there's threats made at that point. Usually it's both sides going back and forth. They're actually bullying each other. It's the power struggle. And so with the social media at home, it never ends. I mean, because it is 24/7. It's really hard to stop. I mean, the school has in the past really bad sites. There was Yik Yak was one. There was these other sites that came out. So there's Wi-Fi. Everybody has a phone at school because they also fight with parents about, my child needs to have their phone on. No, they don't. But that's a different topic. But that was really bad at bullying, just talking back and forth in very bad situations. So they were able to put a geonet over the school that would not allow kids to go on to Yik Yak at all within a mile and a half radius. But.
So a few things, and we could do a whole presentation just on each one of these, so I'm not going to talk much, but at the elementary school, every student's getting the second step program taught by the elementary counselors. And at the middle school level, you know, social emotional learning curriculum for all students on a monthly basis, actually a weekly basis that you heard. Also the Why Try curriculum is there, teaching students resiliency. And sometimes that's the best thing we can do, is when someone says something to you, how can you be resilient and just walk away and not let it bother you so it doesn't turn into a confrontation. And so teaching about that resiliency for students is key there. And then at the high school level, you know, we've got the core project and also sources of strength, teaching students how to self-manage themselves, have self-awareness, be responsible for their decision making, and so there's many programs in place, and I know for time. Key points though that we really believe where we get the biggest traction here. Yeah, our SROs are invaluable. We've got security cameras. Our counselors do an awesome job. In our health classes, we're teaching about positive relationships, but really partnering with parents and monitoring social media use. That is one of the biggest bang for the buck would be right there. And you know, just practices like I know some families that the charging station for your electronics is down in the kitchen, it's not in your bedroom, and at a certain time of night there are no electronics in your bedroom at all. And that really seems to help. I mean, help students set boundaries with social media. And then also, you know, one of the things that came back was from the Kiwanis, a question was, how do students report bullying? And is there under-reporting? I mean, we do have a hotline that's an anonymous hotline at Sandpoint High School, and I think everybody's really working on breaking that code of silence. And that's not just about whether a student's going to harm themselves or harm someone else, but just even about bullying is that having that avenue to report that to a trusted adult. And that's key, that student does not continue to put up with something just because they're afraid to report it because they don't think it will get better. And so that's something that's kind of a battle there. And then also restorative justice practices have been very helpful. Spencer, I know you've been to some trainings on restorative justice.
Along with Julia, I've sat in with Circles for Restorative Justice. In certain instances, restorative justice can be a very useful tool in help solving some of the issues between the several students that are involved. It's not always going to work. We're not always going to do it. I know Casey's aware of it. You know, if they're still button heads, we're not going to put them in the same room. That's not what we're after. But a lot of the time, as long as you can show the other person what they're doing and how it makes them feel on both sides, you know, what the victim's doing and what the bully is doing to that person, how everybody feels, a lot of the times they can help. And I think I've sat in with 3 or 4 with Joy alone in the past. So it's been a very useful tool in the right circumstance. And I've noticed just from my last 6 years how the school district itself, whether it have been Tom, Sean, everybody else had taken a stance on the non-bullying as far as, and I think you guys might be able to attest to some of it, in middle school, the recidivism on bullying and fights is way down. In the schools, and that's, I can pull every stat that I've ever, you know, fight or bullying code that I've ever pulled in schools, and it'll show it's well under half of what it used to be. So whatever they're doing with resiliency and with what they're teaching in elementary helps. I mean, there's still isolated instances, but it's taken very serious. There's almost, you know, something gets reported every day, whether it be over at the middle school or he responded over to Farman, or it's there. But every principal takes it very serious, and I feel that it gets handled pretty well.
And I would say that it helps all school administrators knowing that not just school consequences, but if it goes too far, there's also going to be consequences with the law also. Yeah. And so to me, that just kind of steps it up to a level, and I think that's been a very good partnership with that. So anyway, that's just a brief introduction of what we're talking about in the community, and we just wanted to let you be aware. Any quick questions?
Well, thank you very much.
Good.
That's great. Okay.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Once you
Yeah.
just come find us,
Presentation.
we're these at the middle school and at the high school. If you have any questions with it, or how the code works, or what, we're there.
I know it's been very positively received in the community that there's a second SRO and,
Yeah, they don't like me there at all.
yeah.
It helps greatly. It does.
Yes.
It does.
So,
So,
thank
yeah,
you both.
for your time.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Tom, I appreciate that, that was nice.
Yeah,
We'll move on to action items, and the
okay.
first one we have is the consent agenda.
We'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second that motion.
We moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on it?
Nope.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion is adopted. And under administration, we have request to proceed with the RFP for managed internal broadband service. Matt? Hi, Matt.
Copy this, but I did update some numbers.
Oh, okay, great.
That's good. All right. So you guys are getting that. This is just a request for proposal for managed internet internal broadband service, and that also includes our WAN services, so that all of the 13 connections we have throughout the district. How this works right now is that we have, we basically manage our own, and so if there's a switch that goes down, or there's a router that goes down, or if there's some kind of a piece of network equipment that goes down, we usually don't find it until morning when we get into work, and we either the school calls or we notice something right on our internal tools that we have, and so then we are going to high gear trying to fix the problem. But what this would do is this would provide managed network service, so it would give us 24/7 where somebody off-site would manage and let us know if something is wrong. They also will help diagnose it, and a lot of the times the companies that win these proposals, they win the proposals with equipment that's a lot like ours, and so they have cold spares. So if the switch goes down, they have a cold spare on the shelf. Right now, over the last year, we've worked at trying to get a cold spare for every piece of networking equipment we have. There's a few that, a router that costs $12,000, it's just not feasible to have a cold spare for everything. So anything that's kind of falling into that $2,000 or less, we have ready to go. So this would provide some kind of a backup for all of that. And as the schools become more and more integrated with cameras and beacons and IP clocks that not only do lockdown but also just do the basic bell structure that Stanford High School and LPO Clark all have their bells that run off a server now instead of a traditional bell. It's more and more important that the network infrastructure remains going at all times. And if it is down, it's not network critical. So what we have right now is we have a contract with a company called Ednetics. It's called Ednetics One. It costs us $11,424 a year. It's basically like having another employee. When something goes wrong, we can call and we can say, okay, there's something going on. Can you help us look at it? They help us figure it out and troubleshoot, and then we can get it fixed. And that covers compute, voice, data centers, or servers, or VoIP, or phone systems, or security systems, and there's $6,240.99 that goes toward our network. So if we were to go out to RFP and we were to get somebody to do an internal broadband service for us managed, we would pull that networking piece out of that contract, and that would then go toward the managed system. Right now, it seems to be the study that I've done is usually around $12 to $13 per student. So it's based on your enrollment. Just throwing some numbers around, 3,840 students, which is roughly where we're at $12 a student. That's 44,160. We want to get an RFP for that because then we could take that to E-rate. That's an E-rateable project, and they would cover 70% of that if we win. If we apply for it as E-rate grants and stuff. It's pretty typical. There's quite a few schools around here who have gotten that managed service. So if that's the case, it would cost us about $13,824 less the $6,240 that we would save with the Ednetics One. So it would be about a $7,500 addition to what we currently have to have the managed broadband service. Those are just the numbers. So really what I'm here is just to ask if we can go out for that RFP process. If we were to not receive the E-rate funding, we probably wouldn't go forward with it. We would try to do some internal tools to manage it. It still wouldn't be as efficient, but it would be what we could make of it.
7,500's
in the budget, right?
Yeah, that's all in budget. In the last, well, I've only been there 3 years, so I don't speak for the last 3 years, but we've done some major infrastructure upgrades, including getting the whole LAN put into place. We have access points with the project that we'll finish this year. We'll have access points in every classroom, with switches and extra ports in every school. So really, all of our network infrastructure is up to date for the first time that I know. It's always been kind of chasing the cart, because we put all the one-to-one devices with iPads in before we had access points and everything all throughout the school. So we finally got, I think, everything in a good place. So that said, there's money, it comes straight out of the tech budget. We don't have to ask for any additional.
Right.
So,
Yes, go ahead, Gary.
so this is a 24/7 service.
Yes.
Provides security, networking, diagnostics, for your equipment.
Yep.
So if
They
something
would contact-
fails,
if something contacts us, if something fails, they contact us. They would contact Christian, our network engineer, and myself.
and they can detect if equipment is failing even when it's not in use?
They have a set of tools that they come in and install on our network, so we work with them. And those tools let them know if it really is just about packets. If all of a sudden one part of the network just disappears, they know somewhere up the line, and they track it all the way up the line to find right where, it stops responding. And then that's where we focus our attention to try to get it back up and running, hopefully before school even starts, if it happens overnight. But even if it's during school, we can get it up and running. There's a few companies around here that I know will apply for it in Spokane, Post Falls, so they're not that far away. If something fails and they have to get a piece of equipment.
But they don't physically respond, and they
No,
send
they
you a
can. They
notice.
can.
They can.
But the
Most of
majority
it's
of it
done
is just
remotely.
managed support. And then we usually do the footwork for it. But then again, we have the expertise on their side. So if we're on site and we can't figure out what's wrong, we can call them back and say, okay, this is what we're seeing. Is there something you can help us, try to diagnose so that we can figure this out?
Okay.
So do we need a motion to,
We do to approve the,
yeah,
I'll entertain a motion to approve the
I-
RFP presented to us.
I move that we approve the RFP.
Request for
purchase for, I move to accept the request to proceed for the RFP for the managed internal broadband service.
you need to get your name in the book.
I'll second that.
Hey, nice going.
Proud.
Oh, we
Okay,
knew you were here for a reason.
okay.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request to proceed with the RFP as presented to us. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion's carried. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
Matt.
Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, next we have the second reading of policy. Melanie, could you please step forward?
Bear with me, I have a really lot to say tonight.
Easy ones.
There are no changes from the first reading. And I believe there's been a motion proposed to accept changes to the policies as they were presented.
I'll make a motion that we accept the changes for policies 2200 and 5440 as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2200 school year calendar instruction hours and 5440 holidays that's been presented previously to us. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion is adopted. Thank you.
This is easy.
Next, we have the first reading
Also,
for the board. Kelly, are you going to
Hi.
present
Yes. So you have two policies with the agenda request in front of you. The first policy, 1500 board meetings. There was one change in there, and then Idaho code updates. Of course, just to follow best practice and ISBA model policy. And then 1610 is conflict of interest. You'll see that there's a title change with that. It was trustee conflict of interest. So that was specific to your 1000 series for board members. So not employee conflicts. And there was some repetitive language in there. There was a paragraph struck, and that was the change and edits there. So these are just revisions. And if you don't have any questions, there's no motion required at first reading.
Any questions on either one of these? It's pretty much
Straightforward,
standard, straightforward. Okay, well, thank you. We'll see it next meeting to approve it. Announcements. Oh, yeah. Superintendent,
Yes.
you have an announcement for us.
I want to remind you that this Thursday, Superintendent Sherry Ybarra will be in town, and she will be speaking at the Republican Women's Meeting here at this location, starting at 5:30. So that is Thursday, and I did just get notification this afternoon that, it's funny, I had been reaching out to her office trying to know what her schedule was while she was in town to
Right.
tour schools, which I couldn't get a reply back, but one of our students at Sandpoint High School has reached out to her, and so she will be doing an interview at Sandpoint High School on Friday morning. Good
enough.
Good to the students. So anyway, exciting to have her in town, and I will reach out to Scott Phillips tomorrow, her communications director, to see how much of time she's going to have Friday to get into our school. So exciting to have her here. Friday, the NIC Roadshow is going to be at Sandpoint High School, 8:30 to 2, and that's a great career exploration, having their tech programs here. Also Friday is the Kootenai Elementary School's Fall Fest at 3:30. So that is this Friday, and also it's homecoming at Clark Fork this week, and so they will have a parade up there, I believe, starting at 5 or 5:30, and they're playing Lakeside in football that evening. Wow. And since another announcement I wanted to bring up is Southside Elementary wanted me to let you know that they're getting very close on their Smart Lab project. We actually met with the tech team and the maintenance team. We're going to move ahead. We're going to reduce the lab size down to 18, where we can add to the 24 later. They're getting very close to their goal, so they're getting very anxious to get that in place. So
Nice.
Anyway, that will be moving forward.
Wow, that's huge. I mean, that's over $100,000.
Well, we've reduced it down to 92. Or around 90.
That's good.
And so they've got another big grant that they're waiting on that they feel very hopeful in. So we're within striking distance to make that happen. And so the company that out of Denver was here, and we met, and I think thanks to Matt and his team, and Matt Deal and his team, everybody's coming together to try to make that happen at Southside Elementary.
Nice.
Also, I will save the invite for Saturday. Matt, you can talk
Our
about
home
that.
invitational is this Saturday, the 10th annual William Johnson Invitational. Starts at 9 o'clock with a little kids half mile, and then we have middle school and high school races after that, and then a citizen race at the end of it. And then to piggyback on that, we have a new school record holder at Sandpoint High School in the 5K. Sam Lavora, most people remember that name, went and ran Division I for Wazoo. All-American, and his school record was beaten by 13 seconds by Nikolai Brate, who's a junior. And then the boys team broke the school pack time and they ran a 16:01 average pack time for the top 5 runners, which is, they've done it multiple times this year, but coming into the season it was a 16:42 school record, so they've taken 41 seconds off as a group.
Wow. Yeah, I saw articles in the Daily Bee on
Great
congrats on your
job,
team's
both the
successes.
teams.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
both
girls,
the
the
men
girls
and
are doing
women, too.
fantastic too. The girls
Yeah.
won the Lewiston meet. 4
Yeah.
girls made it up on the top 25 school list. It's a really good season.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Matt. So the pack time is the average time for the varsity?
The average time of the top 5, because that's your scorers in cross country.
Yeah.
So we had a 15:35, 15:54, 16:05, 16:16, and 16:21 were our top 5 times.
Wow.
And that's for
5K.
5K.
That's a 5:01 mile average for Nicholas Brate school record.
That's
Oh,
Over grass and sand and
Yeah,
it's
that's
not on track.
exciting.
Hurts thinking about that.
Yeah.
And
Well, nice
No
job.
bear chasing.
Nice job.
Not yet. We'll save that for state.
Yeah, that's
So
motivating.
when's your district, when's your state?
September
qualifier?
20 or October 24th is districts. That's at Farragut State Park, and then November 2nd we run in Pocatello for our state championship.
Great. Nice job.
And then next week, I believe, and I don't, hopefully it's not too early, but I'm anticipating that we will be hosting the soccer championships on Wednesday for the girls and Thursday for the boys.
Great.
And I know they still have to
Next
play.
week that's coming up?
Correct. That would be
They still gotta play
the,
Moscow.
they still have to play Moscow, so I said anticipating. So,
Optimistically.
yes,
Good.
yeah, but that's already that time of
Good.
year, so.
Yeah, and our football team's doing well.
Yes.
And,
I know.
We've got a
we
big
all
game
kinds of
Friday
good
down
stuff.
in Moscow.
Okay, Casey, do you have any announcements for us?
Anything other?
Yeah, just real quick, Carrie's got actually the sports section of that.
Oh, good.
I get to do sports highlights.
We've got 2 on Saturday, so.
Yeah, we have, so thank you to Matt, because our cross-country runners will be kicking off. The girls and the boys will run their meet also, so that's always really fun. And then we have volleyball districts that happen this Saturday at Timberlake, and we don't host our boys football team, but the 8th grade footballs will have 2 home games, Wednesday and Saturday. Yeah, tennis and golf wrap up this week, and then we're gonna move into wrestling.
Keeps going.
Keep
Just
going.
Board members, anything?
No.
I'd just like to remind the board that next month we have the ISBA conference, and so I remind you to review the resolutions that are going to be put forward. And anybody that may not be there, please let me know what your desires are, and I will cover for you. Anything else? Okay, adjourned. Thank you all very much.